Don't let that child eat the cake. Naomi Reed's warning cut through the conservatory 1 second before the silver cake server struck porcelain. The first slice slid from Adrian Moretti's hand, hit the white tablecloth, and folded open beneath a blue sugar orchid. A baby monitor flickered beside Naomi's trembling tray. Then Celeste Vaughn's palm cracked across Naomi's face, and a bright drop of blood fell from the Chubby Waitress's lip onto her apron. 3 hours earlier, Naomi had stood alone in the pastry kitchen, checking every receipt twice. Beyond the glass walls, Baltimore Harbor lay beneath a gray morning fog, cargo cranes rising from it like the bones of drowned giants. Inside, the Moretti Harbor house gleamed with white roses, crystal stemware, and enough money to make every server move quietly. Naomi moved quieter than most. She had learned that silence could keep a woman employed. She had also learned it could bury her. Her fingers traced the banquet receipt clipped beneath the cake order. 6 white sugar orchids. 3 tiers. First slice reserved for Adrian Moretti and his 2-year-old daughter, Lily. Naomi wrote the time in her small food log. 9:14 a.m. Still counting everything you touch? Celeste asked from the doorway. She wore ivory silk and a smile polished smooth enough for cameras. Her emerald engagement ring flashed when she folded her arms. Naomi closed the log. It keeps the service clean. Of course. Celeste stepped closer, lowering her voice. Some women need rules around food more than others. Her eyes moved from Naomi's apron to her waist. The smile never changed. Naomi did not answer. She lifted the cake receipt instead. The order says white flowers. And there's a blue one on the second tier. Celeste glanced at the cake for less than a second. Then the pastry chef changed his mind. He signs every change. Naomi. Celeste reached out as if adjusting her collar. Her nails pressed into the bruised flesh beneath Naomi's sleeve. You are here to carry what you're given, not investigate it. Naomi held still until Celeste released her. She waited until the ivory dress disappeared beyond the service door, then photographed the cake with her old phone. The screen was cracked through the center, but the blue flower showed clearly. So did the untouched frosting around it. At noon, the conservatory filled with donors, city officials, and men who lowered their voices when Adrian Moretti entered. He took his place beside Lily without ceremony, broad-shouldered in a charcoal suit, his attention moving through the room with the cold precision of a man who survived by noticing what others missed. Naomi pushed the cake cart forward. Celeste lifted Lily toward him. The baby monitor on the pastry counter gave a soft electronic chirp. Lily had been playing with the nursery remote earlier, and the screen suddenly jumped backward into recorded footage. Naomi saw only fragments. An ivory sleeve, the blue orchid rising, a thin silver point, one clear drop sinking beneath the frosting. Then the image vanished. Adrian raised the first bite toward Lily. Naomi moved before fear could stop her. The tray struck the table. The cake fell. Silence swallowed the room. Behind the cart, hidden from Adrian's view, Celeste slapped her. When Adrian stepped around it, Celeste was already holding Lily against her chest. She lunged toward the baby, she said softly. I stopped her. Security closed in. Naomi tasted blood but crouched beside the fallen slice, wrapping it in a clean linen napkin. Nobody touches this. Adrian's gaze hardened. Why? Naomi looked at the woman in ivory, then at the child in his arms. Because I didn't see enough to accuse her. She lifted the wrapped cake. But I saw enough to stop you. Adrian did not believe her. Not yet. But he raised one hand, and every guard froze. Seal the room. As the pastry manager reached for the blue sugar orchid, Naomi caught his wrist. Beneath its broken petals was a hole no wider than a needle, and frosting around it was still wet. Naomi kept her fingers around the pastry manager's wrist until Adrian said, "Let go." She did, slowly. The man stared at the tiny hole beneath the blue petals, then wiped his palm against his jacket as if he had touched something alive. It could be decoration damage, Celeste said. Her voice was calm again, almost kind. The Poor girl is frightened. Let's not turn a ruined brunch into a criminal investigation because she has an active imagination. Naomi folded the linen tighter around the fallen slice. Then you won't mind if it's tested. A faint pulse moved beneath Celeste's jaw. Adrian saw it. He said nothing. Behind the glass pastry wall, the dishwasher kept running, steady and indifferent, plates knocking softly against one another while 60 guests stood in silence. The ordinary sound made the room feel colder. Adrian's security chief stepped forward. We'll take the sample. Naomi pulled it back. Not without a witness. The man's face tightened. Celeste gave a small, embarrassed laugh meant for the donors. You see what I've been trying to manage. She touched Adrian's sleeve. Naomi has become increasingly difficult around food service. An HR manager appeared as if he had been waiting behind the curtain. He carried a gray folder thick enough to look official. 6 complaints. 3 warnings. 2 incident reports. Naomi watched Adrian open it. Every page reduced her to the same phrases. Food fixation, emotional response, inappropriate monitoring, lingering near dessert stations. Celeste spoke gently. I stopped them from firing her. Her eyes moved over Naomi's body with surgical politeness. I know some women develop complicated relationships with food. Shame can make people defensive. One donor looked at the cake. Another looked at Naomi's waist. No one had to say what they were thinking. Naomi felt 17 again, standing beneath fluorescent lights while a restaurant manager accused her of stealing 2 lemon tarts. He had not checked the camera. He had looked at her hips and said some accusations explained themselves. Since then, Naomi had kept every receipt, every table number, every returned plate. She reached into the pocket of her torn apron and pulled out a duplicate receipt pad, the paper softened by years of use. The cake left the pastry kitchen at 12:06. Her thumb found the carbon copy. It reached the nursery corridor at 12:11. It entered this room at 12:34. Adrian looked up. 23 minutes. No signature during that time. The pastry manager shook his head too quickly. That's normal during event service. Naomi turned the receipt toward him. Then why was my shift log changed from nursery corridor to East Ballroom? The room went still again. Adrian took the page without asking. The ink on Naomi's copy was blue. The printed staff log in the HR folder showed black. Different time, different station. He photographed both with his phone, then closed the folder. Who edited this? He asked. The question was so quiet the HR manager leaned closer as though he had misheard. Routine correction, sir. By whom? I'd have to check. Adrian's eyes settled on him. Do that. Celeste stepped between the question and the answer with a smile. Surely we should move Lily somewhere peaceful. She already is, Adrian said. A guard had taken the child upstairs. Celeste's fingers tightened around the stem of her wineglass. Naomi noticed the baby monitor screen again. The playback icon was gone. So was the 30-second clip she had seen. She pressed the side button, but the device asked for a 4-digit administrator code. It didn't need a code this morning, she said. Adrian crossed the room and took a picture of the screen. Who has access? The nanny, Celeste answered. And me occasionally. Naomi's old phone vibrated inside her apron. One notification glowed across the cracked glass. Your 11:58 a.m. voice memo was deleted from another device. Naomi had recorded the kitchen before service. She looked at the HR folder, the changed shift log, and the locked monitor. Then she turned the receipt over. On the back, beneath her own handwriting, someone had added one sentence in black ink. Keep the heavy server near the cake. Adrian read the sentence twice. He did not ask what heavy server meant. Everyone in the room already knew. Naomi watched his thumb pause over the black ink, watched the stillness settle into him, the way cold settles into steel. Celeste stepped closer with practiced concern. That could have been written by anyone. Her tone was gentle enough to sound reasonable. Naomi handles dozens of receipts. She may not remember what she added herself. Naomi looked at her. I remember every word I write when it can cost me my job. Celeste's smile tightened. That kind of certainty can be a symptom of stress. Adrian folded the receipt once and placed it inside his jacket. Separate rooms, he said. No one moved at first. Now. 10 minutes later, Naomi sat alone in the private dining room with her torn apron still damp against her ribs. Through the wall came the low hum of refrigeration and the distant clatter of dishes being cleared from tables no guest had been allowed to leave. Adrian stood across from her. One hand resting on the back of a chair he did not sit in. Who pushed the cake cart? I did. Who touched the monitor? Lily. Earlier. She dropped the remote near the nursery rug. Was the door open? 6 inches. How do you know? Naomi swallowed. The rabbit was caught beneath it. His eyes narrowed slightly. Rabbit. A stuffed one. Pink ears. She threw it. I picked it up. Adrian said nothing. Silence stretched until Naomi could hear the second hand of the brass clock above the mantel. Where was the blue flower? He asked. Second tier. Front left. You're sure? It was wrong. Wrong how? The pastry chef faces every orchid left to hide the seam in the fondant. That one faced right. Adrian's gaze moved to her hands. You notice flower direction during service? I notice what changes after I sign for it. In another room, Celeste gave the same account without hesitation. She said Naomi had pushed the cart. The nursery door had been closed. Lily had been crying. The blue orchid had always been on the top tier. She remembered no stuffed rabbit. Her answers were clean, polished, and complete. Too complete. Adrian returned with the pastry manager and a tablet. On the screen was a photograph taken at 12:06, the moment the cake left the kitchen. 6 white sugar orchids. No blue flower. Naomi leaned forward. Zoom in on the left seam. The manager did. The fondant was smooth, untouched. Celeste entered before anyone called her. Her phone disappearing into her purse as she crossed the threshold. I hope we're not encouraging this, she said. The more attention Naomi receives, the more difficult it may be for her to separate fear from fact. Naomi looked at the photograph again. Where is the delivery image from 12:11? The manager swiped through the file. Nothing. There should be one, Naomi said. Every nursery delivery gets photographed because of Lily's allergy protocol. The manager's face changed. Not much. Just enough. Perhaps the server forgot. Naomi turned toward him. I was the server. Adrian watched the man avoid her eyes. Find it, he said. The manager left too quickly. Adrian picked up the blue orchid with evidence tongs. Beneath the painted petals, the hollow stem held a sliver of clear plastic, no pastry decoration required. He placed it into a sample bag. This proves someone altered the cake, he said. His voice remained level. It does not prove who. I know. Naomi's old phone vibrated again. This time it was not a deletion notice. It was a recovered thumbnail from the monitor cache, too blurred to show a face. An ivory sleeve, a hand near the cake, and on the wrist, reflected in the nursery mirror, a second hotel key card clipped beneath an emerald bracelet. Naomi looked toward Celeste's bare wrist. The bracelet was gone. Naomi looked at Celeste's bare wrist, then at the blurred image on her old phone. The emerald bracelet had been there 20 minutes ago. Now Celeste's sleeve ended at clean skin. Give me the phone, the security chief said. His hand remained open, patient, almost courteous. Naomi closed her fingers around the cracked device. No, the private dining room seemed to shrink around the word. Mahogany walls, silver water pitchers, a chandelier throwing warm light over people who had never been told no by someone wearing an apron. Elliot Crane, Adrian's family counsel, adjusted his cuff links. Ms. Reed, refusing cooperation will only make an already unfortunate situation appear worse. His smile was thin and professional. You are an employee in possession of possible company property. It's my phone. Then you should have nothing to fear from handing it over. Naomi straightened her name tag where Celeste's slap had twisted it sideways. Last time I handed over evidence, the camera stopped working. No one spoke. Adrian stood near the window, motionless, watching the room rather than Naomi. Celeste lowered herself into a chair with careful grace. "She is frightened," she said. "Fear can make people suspicious of those trying to help them." Her eyes softened as they settled on Naomi. "You have been under pressure for some time, haven't you? The long shifts, the food anxiety, the embarrassment from your previous job." The words were gentle. Each one had a blade inside it. Crane slid a printed statement across the table. It said Naomi had panicked after misreading a harmless image, damaged private property, and moved aggressively toward Lily. At the bottom waited a signature line. "Sign this," he said. "And Mr. Moretti may be willing to treat today as a medical episode rather than misconduct." Naomi read every word. Then she placed the paper back on the table. "I did not move toward Lily. You disrupted the cake service. I stopped the cake service. That distinction may feel important to you." Naomi reached into her apron and removed the old phone again. "It will feel important when you hear this." She opened a folder of voice memos. The first recording filled the room with the dull hum of a pantry refrigerator. Then Celeste's voice, low and controlled. "Stand closer to the dessert cart. Cameras need a clear story." Another file. A tray striking tile. Naomi breathing hard. Celeste again. "Smile when you leave. Nobody believes a frightened woman who looks angry." The security chief stopped reaching for the phone. Celeste did not move, but the color beneath her makeup changed. Naomi played the final recording. "When something goes wrong, they will remember you were always near the food." Silence followed. Adrian's face revealed nothing. That was worse than anger. "She hurt you," he said. Naomi loosened the side of her torn apron and showed the dark blood dried into the inner seam near her ribs. She did not lift her blouse. She did not need to. For 6 weeks. Adrian turned to Celeste. "Did you?" Celeste inhaled slowly. "I corrected an employee who repeatedly ignored boundaries. Perhaps I touched her arm. Perhaps she bruises easily. You know how emotionally charged these situations become." Adrian looked back at Naomi. "The recordings prove abuse." His voice stayed cold. "They do not prove poison." "I know." Naomi held his gaze. "They prove she was building a story about me before today." Something shifted in his eyes. Not trust. Direction. Naomi reached into the torn apron lining and found a crumpled banquet receipt she had forgotten was there. One line had been added beneath the cake order. "Private nursery delivery. Medical cold pack." Celeste leaned forward too quickly. That was for Lily's medication. Adrian's head turned. Naomi had not yet read the line aloud. Adrian's head turned toward Celeste with almost no movement at all. "What medication?" he asked. Celeste's expression held. "Lily's emergency allergy kit. The clinic sent a replacement cold pack this morning." Naomi unfolded the receipt carefully, flattening it against the mahogany table with both palms. "There's no allergy code." Crane reached for the paper. Naomi covered it with her hand. "Photograph it first." Adrian did. Only then did Naomi slide the receipt into an empty water carafe bag and fold the plastic over the top. The handwriting beneath the cake order was narrow and black, unlike the blue ink used by banquet staff. "Private nursery delivery medical cold pack. Purchase order HM 4417. Celeste gave Naomi the patient smile one might use on a child holding a dead bird. "Not every medical delivery uses the same billing system. You are turning paperwork into theater." "Then the paperwork should clear you," Naomi said. Adrian looked toward the security chief. "Keycard log. Nursery corridor. 11:30 to 12:30. The man hesitated for less than a second. "It was enough." "That will take time." "How much?" 10 minutes. "You have 5. No one raised a voice. The room still seemed to lose oxygen. 5 minutes later, a tablet was placed before Adrian. Naomi stood on the other side of the table, her ribs burning beneath the torn apron, while he read the entries one at a time. Celeste's card opened the nursery at 12:13. The pastry manager entered at 12:18. At 12:21, an unassigned maintenance card opened the service door. That card should not exist, Adrian said. The security chief cleared his throat. Temporary cards are sometimes issued during events. To whom? I'll need to verify. Adrian's eyes lifted. You have said that twice. Naomi leaned closer to the screen. Show the hallway camera. The footage played. At 12:19, the cake cart stood outside the nursery. At 12 hours 20 minutes and 11 seconds, the image froze. At 12 hours 20 minutes and 58 seconds, it returned. 47 seconds gone. The security chief began explaining bandwidth failures, simultaneous guest connections, an overloaded network. Naomi did not listen to the words. She watched the last intact frame. A silver reflection curved along the bottom shelf of the service cart. Stop there. Adrian paused it. Zoom into the tray. The image blurred, then sharpened enough to show a tall figure carrying a metallic thermal pouch beneath one arm. Only the reflection was visible. Long ivory sleeve. Narrow heel. Left hand. Celeste folded her arms. Half the women in this hotel are wearing ivory. Not half are left-handed, Naomi said. Celeste smiled. And now handedness is evidence? No. It's direction. Naomi asked for the loading dock feed. The security chief objected that the cameras were unrelated. Adrian touched the screen once. Play it. At 12 hours 20 minutes and 16 seconds, the freight elevator opened below. A courier stepped out carrying the same silver pouch, now collapsed and empty. The timestamp continued moving while the nursery camera remained frozen. Naomi checked the distance in her mind. 47 seconds, she whispered. Adrian looked at her. What? That elevator takes 47 seconds down and back when the door is held with a maintenance key. I time it every night so the desserts don't soften before service. The courier receipt was pulled from the digital file. 44:17. Same purchase order. Harbor Mercy Pavilion. Celeste's hand moved toward her purse, then stopped. It is Lily's clinic, she said. You already know that. Adrian did know the name. 6 months earlier, Celeste had suggested Harbor Mercy for Lily's care. He had signed nothing, proved nothing. Yet attached to the courier receipt was a scanned hospital wristband already printed and waiting. Naomi turned the tablet toward him. The patient name read, Adrian Moretti. Admission time. 1:10 p.m. Adrian stared at the band longer than he had stared at the poison, the bruises, or the deleted footage. Then he looked at the woman he had planned to marry. Why? He asked softly. Was a hospital expecting me before I got sick? Celeste did not answer immediately. Rain whispered against the conservatory glass, soft enough that Naomi could hear a spoon settle inside an abandoned coffee cup in the next room. A clerical error, Celeste said at last. Private clinics prepare for high-profile patients. It is called discretion. Adrian looked at the hospital wristband again. Before the patient is sick? Crane stepped in smoothly. Harbor Mercy may have opened a contingency file after Ms. Vaughn discussed your cardiac history. I have no cardiac history. The lawyer's mouth closed. Adrian turned the tablet face down. His anger did not rise. It disappeared. Call Dr. Mercer, he told his private attorney. Not the family office. His personal number. Then he looked at the security chief. Copy every camera file. Original format. No compression. Sir, that could take hours. Start. The room moved around him quietly. Phones were lifted. Doors closed. No one was dismissed, which frightened them more than shouting would have. Naomi remained beside the table, one hand pressed lightly against her ribs. Adrian noticed. You need a doctor. After the evidence is sealed. That was not a request. Neither was mine. Their eyes met. For a moment, the room seemed to wait for him to remind her who he was. He did not. He called for an outside physician and ordered that Naomi's injuries be documented under her full name, not under hotel personnel records. 20 minutes later, Dr. Mercer appeared on a secure video call. He examined the hospital tag, the purchase order, and the preliminary toxicology report from the cake. His expression changed slowly. The compound would not necessarily kill you, he said. At that dose, it could slow your heart, cause confusion, weakness, maybe temporary loss of consciousness. Adrian's voice stayed flat. How long? Long enough for someone else to make medical decisions. Crane shifted his weight. Adrian saw it. Send me every authorization form Harbor Mercy has on file. The documents arrived 9 minutes later. The first was a private room deposit receipt. The second was an ambulance dispatch sheet created before noon. The third was an emergency medical authority contract naming Celeste as acting family representative. A fourth document sat behind it. A temporary guardianship petition for Lily, prepared but unsigned. Naomi read the date twice. This was filed 3 weeks ago. Celeste gave a faint laugh. Prepared, not filed. Responsible families prepare for emergencies. Naomi turned another page. Attached to the guardianship packet was a summary of employee risk. Her name appeared beneath a photograph taken from her personnel file. Naomi read, food motivated, prior theft accusation, emotionally reactive under scrutiny, likely to confess if isolated. Her throat tightened, but her voice did not. They did not wait for me to do anything wrong. Adrian read the page without blinking. Naomi continued, quieter now. They chose what everyone would believe before they chose the day. A phone vibrated against the table. Dr. Mercer had sent one final note. The medical pouch should have contained 2 vials. The lab had found residue from only one in the cake. Adrian looked toward the ceiling, toward the nursery above them. Where is the second vial? Celeste answered too quickly. There was only one. Adrian's eyes moved to her. The invoice says 2. Silence returned. Naomi gathered the receipts, the wristband, and the copied contract into separate evidence sleeves. Adrian watched her write her name across each seal. What do you want? He asked. Celeste looked at her as if waiting for a price. Naomi did not look at Celeste. I want the lie stopped. Her hand rested over the personnel summary. I want my name written correctly in every file that used my body as proof against me. Adrian stared at the woman in the torn apron, then at the woman wearing his ring. 6 weeks of complaints. 6 weeks of bruises. 3 weeks of guardianship papers. He had believed one woman was protecting his household. The truth was colder. She had been teaching the household whom not to believe. Adrian closed the personnel file and returned it to Naomi. Keep it. Celeste's eyes moved between them. She had expected outrage, threats, perhaps a room emptied by armed men. Adrian gave her nothing. That was the first thing that frightened her. The laboratory found contamination from the broken serving plate, he said. The result is inconclusive. Naomi looked at him. He did not look back. Then this ugliness can end? Celeste said, allowing relief to warm her voice. Naomi should rest. Somewhere private. She finishes her shift, Adrian replied. Celeste blinked. After what she did? Especially after what she did. An hour later, the conservatory was being reset for an emergency board dinner. White linens replaced the stained cloth. A second cake, identical except for 6 white orchids, arrived under armed supervision. The luxury room slowly became a trap disguised as hospitality. Naomi stood in the service pantry while an outside lawyer fastened a recorder inside the seam of a clean apron. Adrian waited by the stainless steel counter, his charcoal jacket buttoned, his face unreadable. You can leave, he said. That is what she expects. This is not your responsibility. Naomi adjusted her name tag until it sat straight. She talks around me because she thinks hurting me made me harmless. Adrian's jaw tightened. If you say stop, it stops. And your men listen to me? Tonight they do. Naomi nodded once. Her strength was not fearlessness. It was knowing exactly where to place fear so it could not control her hands. The pastry manager had broken 40 minutes earlier. Faced with the keycard log and loading dock footage, he surrendered a burner phone, an envelope of cash, and a message thread written in careful code. Keep the blue flour cold. The large server stays visible. Make sure the first story survives. One final message remained unanswered. The second correction stays upstairs. Naomi studied it beside the kitchen clock. She says upstairs, not nursery. Adrian glanced at her. Difference. Staff says nursery. Family says Lily's room. Only people moving supplies call the linen level upstairs. She remembered Celeste inspecting the nursery hamper that morning, complaining that the lining smelled of bleach. The hamper. Adrian gave one silent order. A hidden camera was placed across from it. Back in the conservatory, Celeste approached Naomi while donors began arriving beneath crystal light. Her perfume reached Naomi first, orange blossom over something medicinal. Celeste adjusted Naomi's collar with 2 fingers. I am glad Mr. Moretti has chosen mercy. Naomi kept the champagne tray level. So am I. You should be careful not to mistake attention for importance. I learned that from you. For the first time, Celeste's smile missed its mark. A phone vibrated inside her ivory purse. She did not touch it. Across the room, Adrian lifted his wineglass but did not drink. Celeste, he said lightly. Which clinic prepared Lily's new allergy kit? Her hand stopped above the chair. Harbor Mercy. You said this morning it was St. Anne's. Silence spread table by table. Celeste recovered quickly. They coordinate pediatric deliveries. You know how these systems overlap. Adrian nodded as if satisfied. Of course. Under Naomi's apron, the recorder light blinked once. In the security room upstairs, the hidden camera showed a gloved hand opening the nursery hamper. A woman removed a silver pouch and reached beneath the folded blankets. Naomi watched the live image on her old phone. Wait, she whispered. Adrian's men remained still. The woman turned just enough for the camera to catch her face. It was Lily's new nanny. She pulled out the second vial, but instead of hiding it, she placed it inside an evidence bag and looked directly toward the lens. Then Celeste's burner phone lit on the table beside Adrian. A new message appeared. Move it now or your brother loses everything. Celeste saw the screen. Her eyes rose slowly to Naomi. Adrian had not moved closer. He had not touched her. He had only positioned himself where the entire room could see that Naomi no longer stood alone. Celeste saw the message on the burner phone and understood the room had changed before anyone said a word. The glass doors of the conservatory closed with a soft mechanical click. Conversations thinned, then died. Beyond the windows, rain dragged silver lines down the harbor lights. Inside, every crystal glass remained untouched. Adrian set his wine on the table. Bring her in. Lily's nanny entered between an outside attorney and a federal investigator, carrying the evidence bag with both hands. The second vial lay inside it, no larger than a woman's little finger. Celeste's face did not collapse. She smiled with wounded patience. This has gone far enough. That woman was frightened into participating in Naomi's fantasy. Naomi removed the recorder from her apron seam and placed it beside the silver cake server. Then let everyone hear what frightened her. The conservatory speakers clicked on. Celeste's voice filled the room, clear and close. Move it before the board arrives. If you hesitate again, your brother's immigration file goes to the wrong desk. The nanny lowered her eyes. Celeste looked toward Crane, but Adrian's family counsel was no longer beside her. 2 investigators stood behind his chair. Naomi connected her old phone to the presentation screen. The first image showed the original cake leaving the pastry kitchen with 6 white orchids. The second showed the blue orchid added later. Then came the keycard log, the 47-second camera blackout, the courier carrying the silver pouch, the pre-printed hospital bracelet, and the emergency contract naming Celeste as medical authority. Each document appeared without music, commentary, or mercy. Naomi did not rush. She explained who found every item, who sealed it, and who signed across the evidence tape. When Celeste interrupted, Naomi raised one hand. You had 6 weeks to speak for me. You're going to let me finish speaking for myself. Nobody moved. The baby monitor footage played last. The image was grainy, but the nursery mirror caught what the main angle had missed. Celeste's emerald bracelet, her left hand lifting the blue flower, and the side of her face reflected in the cabinet glass. A medical report appeared beside it, confirming both vials contained the same cardiac compound found in the frosting. Celeste stared at the screen. That can be edited. Naomi placed the banquet receipt beneath the projector light. The purchase order on this receipt matches the hospital invoice, the courier record, and the second vial's pharmacy seal. She turned the page over. Keep the heavy server near the cake. This handwriting matches your corrections on my disciplinary reports. Crane spoke at last. Handwriting comparison is not proof of conspiracy. Adrian looked at him. The pain in his face was almost invisible, which made it worse. You wrote the guardianship petition. Crane's silence answered first. Adrian removed his engagement ring from the chain beneath his shirt and placed it beside the contract. I signed the original medical access form because you told me it protected Lily. His eyes remained on Celeste. You changed the page. For the first time, he looked pale. Not afraid. Hollowed. He had trusted her with his daughter's doctors, his staff files, his home. Every permission he had given her had become a weapon pointed downward at people he had trained himself not to see. Naomi stood 10 feet away in a clean apron that still carried the weight of the bloody one sealed upstairs. Adrian looked at her, but she did not rescue him from the truth. You didn't miss one bad moment, she said quietly. You trusted a system that made women like me prove pain before anyone considered stopping it. The words struck harder than accusation because he knew they were exact. Celeste rose. Adrian, you know me? He looked at the woman he had planned to marry. I knew the woman you performed for me. She turned toward the glass pastry kitchen, the same bright room where she had struck Naomi believing no important person was watching. The door would not open. Her reflection stared back from every pane. Adrian picked up the second vial, set it beside the bloody apron photograph, and looked at the investigator. Arrest everyone who signed this lie. 6 months later, the conservatory filled again, but not with donors. The board sat on one side of the glass room. Every server, dishwasher, cook, housekeeper, driver, and nanny sat on the other. No one wore evening clothes. No champagne waited on the tables. Adrian stood where the poisoned cake had once been placed and read the consequences without softening a single word. Celeste Vaughn had been indicted for attempted poisoning, conspiracy, assault, witness intimidation, medical fraud, and child endangerment. Elliot Crane had lost his license and faced federal charges for altering the guardianship documents. Harbor Mercy Pavilion was under investigation. The charity accounts were frozen, the stolen funds traced, and every board member who had approved payments without review had been removed. The engagement had ended before Celeste left the conservatory in handcuffs. But Adrian did not call that justice. Punishing them does not repair what made them possible, he said. His voice remained low, forcing the room to listen. He admitted that Celeste had controlled employee files because he had allowed private power to operate without public accountability. Security had answered to status instead of truth. Human resources had treated polished language as credibility and fear as guilt. Naomi Reed warned this house, he said. This house documented her body, her tone, and her job title before it documented her injuries. He turned toward her. That happened under my name. Adrian apologized without asking her to make him feel forgiven. Every false complaint was removed from Naomi's record. Her stolen shifts, withheld tips, and unpaid medical leave were restored with penalties. The old theft accusation from years earlier was formally challenged through an employment attorney, and a written correction was placed in the staffing system that had followed her from job to job. The hotel created an independent reporting office outside the Moretti chain of command. No fiancé, family member, donor, or executive could alter an employee file. Food safety evidence required 2 signatures. Security footage could no longer be deleted by a single administrator. The nanny received witness protection, immigration counsel for her brother, and the choice to return without owing gratitude to anyone. Naomi's mother's health coverage, nearly lost during the suspension, was restored retroactively. Adrian offered Naomi money once. She refused it. Pay what the law says you owe, she told him. Then fix what the law did not notice. She accepted a paid certification program in food safety investigation and workplace compliance. After completing it, she was elected by the staff, not appointed by Adrian as employee safety liaison. Her authority came in writing. She could stop service, seal evidence, demand outside testing, and report directly to an independent investigator. On her first day in the new role, Naomi received a clean apron. It fit her body instead of trying to hide it. Her full name was stitched across the chest in dark blue thread. Naomi Reed. That evening, after the reopened conservatory closed, Lily's birthday cake sat on a small table beneath warm lights. 6 white sugar orchids circled the top. The baby monitor carried only the sound of Lily laughing with her nanny in the next room. Adrian placed the restored silver cake server beside Naomi's hand. "Would you?" he asked. "Not an order." Naomi checked the seal, read the receipt, and watched the pastry chef sign the log. Then she cut the first slice for Lily, the second for her mother, and the third for herself. She had spent years refusing food during a shift because she knew how quickly people could turn appetite into evidence. Now the room watched as she lifted the fork. She did not explain her hunger. She did not apologize for taking up space. Adrian set a cup of hot coffee beside her, then remained quiet. Naomi took one bite of cake and looked at the man who had finally learned that seeing someone was not the same as saving them. "You heard me late," she said. "But you changed what happens to the next woman." Adrian could not answer. Across the quiet room, the old phone rested beside her corrected employee file. The silver server shone beneath her name, and the woman everyone had once spoken over was the only voice left that mattered.